Veligian, and welcome to my channel. My name is Ludi, and today we're gonna do our top 10 nations to restore the Roman Empire as. The nations that we'll have on the list will include both beginner nations, as well as nations for more experienced players, and nations that have some sort of claim to the actual restoration of Rome, and some flavor towards achieving it. If we get the video to 1,500 likes, I'm also gonna do a top 10 strongest nations in Europe in the 1.30 update. If you guys also enjoy watching my videos, consider subscribing. Once I reach 35,000 subscribers, I will be doing a giveaway for a full EU4 game that includes all of the current DLCs up to Emperor for one of my subscribers. A nation that is definitely easiest to restore Rome as for newer players is Castile. Castile is quite a large and sizable nation at the very start, having most of the Iberian Peninsula, and you also get the Iberian wedding quite early on, meaning you get Aragon as a junior partner together with Naples, or you can even get claims to restore your union or just take over the Neapolitan lands otherwise. Similarly, because of your mission tree, you can also get a union over Portugal and even can get claims on all of Italy and parts of France, including parts of North Africa. The Castilians start off with some of the best national ideas in the very beginning, including morale of armies plus 15% and marine force limit plus 5, with later down the line ideas that include production efficiency and extra missionary and missionary strength. You should of course form Spain diplomatically through your union with Aragon and take these Spanish ideas, which are even better militarily speaking. Expansion within North Africa at the start is going to be ridiculously easy, as most of these nations are super easy to kill off before they actually become a threat. And after the Aragonese PU, expansion into Naples and the Balkans is also going to be significantly easier. If you're newer to the game, I highly recommend you start your first attempt at restoring Rome as the Castilians. Yet another nation that is not so easy but a lot more fun than most on this list is Naples. Naples starts off as a junior member under the Aragonese, and the Neapolitans can quickly get their independence from an event or through an independence war. Afterwards, you can get back your cores on the entirety of Sicily, and in the same war you can grab Sardinia and the Balearic Islands. You can also watch my guide on Naples, which is up to date in 1.30 and explains exactly how you should do these things. After your independence, Naples easily has access into Epirus, the Byzantines, and through vassalizing the Byzantines, you can feed them back their cores in the first war against Ottomans. Later down the line, even doing, of course, the good old Bulgaria feeding core trick as well. You also can easily get the gold mine in Kosovo by attacking Albania and Venice early in the game and taking over the rest of the lands in the Balkans that you can get a hold of before the Austrians come knocking. Similarly, after you've taken the islands in the Mediterranean, you can expand into North Africa early on, and after the Byzantine conquest, you can take over the rest of the islands in the eastern part of the Mediterranean, making your way to the Holy Land itself. The Neapolitan mission tree also has a ton of claims, both on the Italian region itself, as well as the Iberian Peninsula, North Africa, and even on the Middle East. You get permanent claims on all of the Syrian and Levantine areas together with Jerusalem, and you even get the chance to restore the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, as well as form the Italian nation should you wish to. The Neapolitan ideas are pretty great too. You get trade efficiency plus 10, manpower plus 20%, goods produced plus 10, tech minus 5, dev cost minus 10, morale of armies plus 10%, and even legitimacy plus 1. I do highly recommend, however, that you play as Naples if you have a bit of experience in the game, as it can be a little bit challenging and RNG dependent compared to other nations. One of the truly most interesting nations on this list is England. England, despite only having a couple of provinces that you need at the start to restore the Roman Empire, as well as a few more in the French region, because of its mission tree, it gets a permanent claim on the entirety of Ile-de-France and Champagne area, and afterwards a union CB on France itself, as well as permanent claims on the entire Breton area. Thus, all of the French region will be under your control within the first 15 years if you are doing this correctly, with later down the line claims on the Picardy, West Burgundy, and East Burgundy areas, as well as at the very same time you can get claims on the Gibraltar province, with more permanent claims into Malta, Crete, Cyprus, and Delta. And after you've taken these smaller islands, you get more claims on Sicily itself. With all of these starting claims, you can secure the French region, all of the islands within the Mediterranean within the first 30 years of the game. And with these islands, you can start expanding into Naples, the North African parts, the Mamluk part, the Balkans, and the Anatolian areas, as well as the Italian and Iberian areas. The beauty about the English is that despite not really having much of a claim to the restoration of Rome, they have the best tools available to them. Simply having these small islands here and there and the strongest navy in the game guaranteed means that you're going to be striking from multiple parts when nobody is expecting it, crushing everybody in your way, and having a super easy time at restoring the Roman Empire. Because of the way that things work in the game right now, you can also cheese your mission tree as well as your national ideas and focuses by switching over to the Irish country, then switching back to England, even can form France and Great Britain and plenty of other nations before you restore the Roman Empire should you wish to take advantage of the multiple permanent modifiers from those multiple mission trees. Seeing as you also start with the English Parliament, you can even take advantage of this from the early game to fuel your expansion and crush any opposition. No one expected this, but Venice is actually on this list. That is correct, Venice, the one and only merchant republic that everybody fears the most and which has 50% of its own trade node, is a super fun and interesting nation to start your Roman reconquest as. Despite the Venetians being one of the main reasons why the Romans got their asses handed to them by the Turks, and I am talking about the fact that Venetians basically ferried across Turks to Gelibolu, which led to the overall destruction of the Byzantine Empire. The Venetians, though, have some sort of a claim to restoring the Roman Empire, and they have the lands to do so. In fact, you have quite a few lands within North Italy, which is the highest aggressive expansion area to expand within, as such making it easier to fully take on over the north and other parts of the Italian peninsula. You also can easily grab up the gold mine in Kosovo and all of the other parts of Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Serbia, and even Albania. If you're fast enough, you also can get a claim and vassalize the Byzantines from the very first few months of the game, and then with the Byzantines you can feed them back their cores, integrate them, can do the same thing by releasing Bulgaria and feed them back the other 12 cores that they have, thus getting rid of the Ottomans from the Balkans super early in the game, and then pushing them out and conquering Anatolia later down the line. That being said, as you can tell, Italy, Balkans, and Anatolia are easy prey for the Venetians, but so is the Mamluks. As we have the island of Crete, we can make claims and expand within the Mamluks early in the game, and with our superior fleet, we can win wars without even having to fight battles through naval blockades and naval superiority. At the same time, after consolidating parts of Naples and a super quick and easy war against the Aragonese early on, we can start expanding within North Africa. The only massive issue would be taking over the French region, as we need the entirety of the French region and the Iberian parts, so it's not the easiest nation to form Rome as, but Venice definitely has a huge income that it can rely on, and which will definitely help out in the conquest to come. Not to mention you start off with a shipyard, so you can start producing ships a lot faster than anybody else in the game, and your mission tree gives you a few claims here and there, as well as a couple of permanent modifiers, although nothing massive. You can form Italy, and I recommend that you rush towards forming Italy. You just need 4 cities within the Italian peninsula, and then you can use the Italian national missions, which basically give you claims on all of the French and Iberian parts. The Venetian ideas include galley combatability plus 25%, which will help you in the wars to come, naval force limit plus 20, 1 extra diplomat, trade efficiency plus 10, as well as naval and land attrition minus 10%. As you can imagine, these are not great military ideas, but like I said, you can form Italy, and I recommend that you switch on over to the Italian ideas once that happens. This next nation is a shocker. It is the Ottomans, of course. Now you're thinking, how can you restore the Roman Empire as the Ottomans? That is both impossible and weird. Well, first off, it is correct. You cannot restore Rome unless you are a Christian nation or a pagan nation. But that being said, as the Ottomans, you can very easily turn and become an Orthodox nation, as you have a ton of Orthodox provinces within your country, and by letting Orthodox rebels enforce their demands on you, you can become an Orthodox Ottoman Empire, or even can become a Coptic Ottoman Empire by taking some of the Coptic provinces in the eastern part of Anatolia. So now that that's out of the way, why should you restore the Roman Empire as the Ottomans? Aside from the fact that you start off with the majority of the Balkans and the Anatolian part, and within the first 20 years you're basically gonna take all of the Balkans and Anatolia, you also through your mission tree get permanent claims on all of the Mamelukes, parts of North Africa, and even other parts that will help you out a lot in your journey to restore Rome. And you also have some of the best national ideas in the game that include discipline plus 5, tolerance of heathens plus 3, land force limit plus 33%, core creation cost minus 20%. The core creation cost alone is insane, as it's going to help you out so much, coring up all of the Italian high development lands as well as the French and the Iberian lands, manpower recovery speed, trade efficiency, but most importantly, restoring Rome as the Ottomans is something that nobody else would expect to do. Not only is it unethical, since they are the ones that destroyed the Roman Empire historically, right? It might seem like the worst thing to do, but actually, technically, the Ottomans do claim themselves to be the descendants of whatever was left of Rome, and a lot of the Ottoman policies, such as the janissary system, was similar to some of the Roman systems. Despite that, the reality is the Ottomans had nothing in common with the Romans and cannot in any way, shape, or form claim any sort of descendancy from them. But restoring the Roman Empire as the Ottomans is quite interesting, since it's a very different approach, as you are starting off as a Sunni Muslim nation. So having a game where you change religion specifically to restore the Roman Empire can be a pleasant change of play style. A nation that technically does claim to be the Roman Emperor in 1444 is Austria. Austria is the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, an empire that is neither holy nor Roman, nor is it really an empire for that matter. That being said, the Austrians do not really have that many provinces required to restore the Roman Empire, but they can get early on in the game, within the first 5 years, a PU over Bohemia and Hungary, which means that you are going to be ridiculously strong, and if you follow your mission tree, you can get claims on pretty much most of Europe and even other parts of the world, but you can easily expand within the Balkans early game, taking over the Kosovo gold mine, the Hont gold mine, the Keb gold mine, and you also have the Intal gold mine. So if you're fast enough, you can pretty much secure all of the gold mines in Europe, minus the one in Spain, and can even get a PU over Castile or Spain later down the line if you work your Habsburg charm. As the Austrians, you'll have a very easy opportunity to vassalize Byzantium as well, and destroy and push out the Ottomans early game from the Balkans, as well as pushing even out of the Anatolian parts, carving your way into the Mamluks. North Africa is going to be super easy. The toughest part would be making your way into France and North Italy, but a lot of the times you even get Burgundy as a free claim through the Burgundian inheritance, since as the emperor you get a higher chance than anybody else to get this nation as a junior partner, which will be instantly integrated quite early in the game. If you really want to have fun, you should play Aragon. That is correct. Aragon definitely is a super interesting nation to restore Rome as it already has the majority of the expansion opportunities that you can imagine. First off, you start off in the eastern part of the Iberian Peninsula, and through your mission tree you can get the rest of the Iberian Peninsula within your fold. Easily can get a PU over Castile and Portugal, and you also have a PU over Naples at the very start that you can keep, as well as you own the islands of Sardinia and Sicily, which means that you can expand super fast within North Africa, doubling your nation in size from within the first 10 years, as well as you can start by vassalizing Byzantium from the beginning, feeding them back the cores, and doing the same with Bulgaria, consolidating both the Balkans and North Africa within the first few years. The tough part towards forming Rome would be fighting against the French, as well as expanding within the rest of Italy, since the aggressive expansion in this area is ridiculously high. I would recommend waiting until these nations leave the HRE for that matter, and until that time you can focus on North Africa, the Mamluk lands, Balkans, and the Ottomans, and with the PUs on Castile, Portugal, all you need to worry about is going to be just the French and North Italian parts, with a few other cities around the area that you need to form Rome. Besides from the awesome mission tree that I just mentioned, the Aragonese have decent ideas as well that include galley compatibility, which will help because you will have a lot of fights within the Mediterranean where galleys are best used. You also have trade efficiency plus 10% and artillery fire plus 1 as your ambition, trade steering plus 20%, morale of armies plus 10%, and global trade power plus 20%. Once you manage to get a PU over Castile, you can also diplomatically form Spain, and you get a new mission tree as well as a new idea set should you wish to go for the Spanish ideas. Combining both the Aragonese mission tree and the Spanish one, you can have a super easy time dominating the Mediterranean, which is the area that you definitely need to have in order to form Rome. Aside from interesting, this nation is also the easiest to form Rome as, namely France. France starts off with the entirety of the French region within its grasp, having the majority of the French region at the start of the game, and having cores on most of the rest of the French region. That being said, when forming Rome, the hardest part is to actually get the French region, since it is a lot of aggressive expansion capturing this area. So starting off with the majority of this area means that France has a super easy advantage. Not to mention, France starts off with about 30,000 20,000 troops, not including the vassals that altogether have another 20k troops or so. The French also have a great mission tree that helps them out in annexing their neighbors and expanding within the Italian, Iberian, and other parts of Europe, making it even easier. The only harder part would likely just be taking over the Ottomans in the mid to late game, as well as the Iraqi part. Idea-wise, the French also have pretty great ideas with national manpower plus 20 and 5% discipline, as well as 20% morale of armies, diplo relations plus 1, tech cost minus 10, and you have to realize that you have an extra plus 3 diplo relations because of your French strong duchies privilege that you start off with, which means that you can basically capture provinces and feed back wars everywhere around the Mediterranean, thus making it a lot faster and easier to form Rome, as you can just vassalize Byzantium, feed them back the cores, take a province in the Bulgarian parts, release Bulgaria, feed back the cores, all the meanwhile you have your own vassals in this region and in other parts of Europe. If you have not tried a France into Roman Empire game yet, definitely try it, as the French are the easiest out of every single nation on this list. One of the truly most interesting nations to restore Rome as is Provence. Despite starting off in 3 different corners of the French region, Provence does have quite a strong alliance set, as it starts off as the only ally of France, and you can use this alliance to your benefit. You can quickly expand within the Britannian area, as well as take over the English parts in Normandy, whilst at the same time, if you follow your mission tree, you can get cores on the entirety of the Neapolitan region, and can even get a restoration of Union CB on the entirety of Aragon after you've taken Naples out, permanent claims on the Palestinian Syrian area, and claims on the Western Mediterranean as well as Sicilian islands, a Union CB on Hungary before the Austrians get it, and you can even go ahead and get your empire rank, as well as diplo annexation cost minus 20%. Imagine that this stacks up pretty nicely, and you eventually can annex vassals for close to nothing. You also pretty much get a permanent claim on the entirety of the French region once you've united the southern parts, for which you easily can get claims. You get it on the entirety of France, and then afterwards you also can get a modifier of 15 army morale for 20 years. Aside from all this, Provence can reform itself into France or re-establish the Kingdom of Jerusalem. My honest recommendation would be use the Provence mission tree, which is one of the most insane mission trees I've ever seen, and then afterwards tag switch over to France and use their own mission tree as well. Despite having only very few provinces at the start, Provence has a ton of potential because of that amazing mission tree, and it also has a great location, as you can never be restricted since you can always expand within the North Italian parts, the HRE lands, Brittany, and other parts to come afterwards. Provence also has 10% morale of armies and plus 1 diplo rep at the very start, as well as plus 2 diplo relations later down the line, production efficiency, and naval force limit plus 10%. You do, however, want to switch on over to the French national ideas once you do have the chance of forming France. Another great move is to go for the Burgundian inheritance by getting a royal marriage with Burgundy and securing an alliance with them if they haven't rivaled you at the start. Despite a Provence into Roman Empire run being a little bit more challenging, it definitely is a lot of fun, and it teaches you very well how to stack up your modifiers when it comes to annexing your subjects, be them PUs or vassals. One of my personal favorite nations to restore the Roman Empire as is the Roman Empire. Of course, we are going to call them Byzantium because that's what we call them, but they did call themselves the Roman Empire, and they had a legitimate reason to do so. Despite having a super difficult start in 1.30 with less development than in the previous patch, Byzantium definitely has all the tools that it needs for an experienced player to restore the Roman Empire. The Byzantine mission tree is ridiculously overpowered. In fact, this mission tree gives you claims on literally all of the Mediterranean areas, including most of Italy, all of North Africa, Mamelukes, Ottomans, Balkans, south of Spain, and North Balkan area. Aside from that, you also get permanent modifiers such as the theme system that guarantees you a national manpower modifier of 25% until the end of the game. Mixed in with orthodoxy, this means that you're gonna get an insanely high amount of manpower after you've managed to re-establish the theme system. Until that point, you will have a hard time breaking free and getting your main cores in the first war against the Ottomans. It is vital that you get your cores and you have a successful war against the Ottomans from the start of the game, otherwise you will perish quite easily. That being said, you can always watch my guide on how to defeat the Ottomans early on in the game, and after you've managed manage to establish yourself in the Balkans, expansion wise it's going to be extremely easy as you are in a super central area. From owning the Greek parts of the Balkans, you can expand into the Yugoslavian part, Romanian lands, the rest of the Turkish lands, into Mamluk, North African parts, and even into Italy quite early on in the game, especially if Naples becomes an independent nation. It's going to be basically a free kill. The fact that in 1.30 Epirus is an independent nation and you start with the core in them also means that you're going to have an even easier time re-establishing the Roman Empire and fighting against the Ottomans after you've taken out Epirus. If you really want to feel like you've had a fun and interesting game restoring Rome, give the actual Romans a try. It might be more difficult than most nations on the list, but it is extremely fulfilling. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, as well as leave the bell button on if you enjoyed the video. It would really help me out so much. I also want to give a very big thank you to everyone for all your support in the past few days. It's been a tough time and I wouldn't still be making videos without the support of my amazing community. If we get the video to 1,500 likes, I'm also going to do a top 10 strongest nations in Europe in the 1.30 update. And I also want to give a very big thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much guys for all the support you've been offering me. I wouldn't be here without you right now. If anybody else wants to become a patron or a channel member, you can check the links in the description. So until the next one, have a great day everybody.